What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some press release hand techniques. So we're going to be talking about some of the best hand techniques that you guys can use to get some separation off the line of scrimmage, because it's not just about the feet and it's not just about being quick off the line, but it's also about having a plan for your hands and being able to swat the DB's hands away to get some separation, okay? So this video is going to give you a lot of value if you struggle with that, kind of combining the two. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And guys, if you want a 45-minute long video with 20 different press releases that you guys can learn when to use the press releases and drills specifically to work on those press releases, broken down, completely simple, right, for you guys to understand and when to use it in a game, check out that link in the description. It says 20 press releases, full 45-minute long video that you guys will have access to. Hope to get you guys on that soon. Again, very first link in the description. Let's get started with this video. So main thing we're going to talk about is when you guys got to get off a press and you got to beat the hands of a DB, it's not that complicated, right? It's not, you don't need to make everything super complicated. You don't need to, I got to do this, do this, do this, do that. It's all about being able to know which hand that I got to beat on a certain release, right? So in this specific scenario, Devontae Adams is going to hit this just quick little wide step release where he steps outside this DB's frame. He uses this first step to kind of shoot him out wide. It's more like a 1-2, actually. I wouldn't consider this a wide step, but he steps outside the DB's frame with this leg, right? So what are we trying to accomplish with this release? Watch it full speed one more time, then we'll break it down. So he goes 1-2, swats that DB's hands off, rips underneath, and it all happens so fast. That's why it's got to be so instinctual off the line of scrimmage right here. So you see when Adams goes 1-2, he steps outside the DB's frame. So that's number one, right? Because if you could step outside of his frame, but at the same time maintain explosion, right? Keeping your toes forward, weight on the inside arch of your foot, but you're outside of his frame, that's going to get him to move, right? That threatens him some way, right? If we can threaten this DB a certain way, and I could threaten him by stepping outside of his frame, that's going to get him to move off this platform, especially if my feet are sudden, right? So now, what's his recovery, right? If he's going to try to jam with two hands, how do you take an inside release? All you got to do is you got to beat this inside hand. That's what we got to focus on, right? A lot of people think that, I got to swat this hand and I got to swat that in, and they spend so much time hand fighting that they're not going anywhere. Let's make this move, get him off that platform, then let's just go. So what Adams understands is that if we could get him to lean on this outside leg or at least commit to this side a little bit, and we're able to swat his right arm, I could get his hips will lock out and I could get some separation. So you see how he's throwing here? He's trying to jam with two hands. That's his recovery right there. And we know that if I just burst off of this leg and I continue to go, I could just swat underneath that right arm, swat that point of control, his wrist, and then just get up into this route. And you see, bam, he's off a press. He just gave him a quick 1-2, didn't have to do anything fancy, didn't have to make 10 different swats with his hands. He's gave him a 1-2, swat that hand off, rip underneath, and then go. There are plenty of different things you could do in this situation too, right? So he could work a 1-2, and then he could end up swatting this hand with his left and maybe shooting over the top with his right. So you swat across with your left, shoot over the top with the right, and then you go, or you swat with the left, rip underneath with the right, or you just club over the top. You, instead of Adams ripping underneath with his right and kind of doing that shoulder reduce, you could just chop over the top. Really, it's all about having a plan, what's more comfortable for you. It's just about being able to execute the plan, have a plan, and what is comfortable. Don't make things too complicated. That's so important. And a lot of people don't understand that you don't have to make things so dang complicated at the line of scrimmage. It's so easy when you know what to do to get off a press, because it's not that hard to get off a press. Bam, bam. I hit him with a 1-2. I get him to move to the outside. I swat that hand off. Bam. You're off a press right now. You're able to keep timing with the quarterback, especially on a longer route like a dig in this scenario. You don't have a ton of time off the line of scrimmage to work all these fancy moves. You got to give something quick, get those hands off, and then let's go. Let's watch the thing again full speed one more time. So again, let's talk about this one more thing before we move on. What if he had to take an outside release? What if he wanted to run a fade? What if he wanted to run like a comeback or an out route? I'm not saying that you always have to take an outside release on those routes, but what if he wanted to, right? So we would hit him with this out, then in step. I get him to lane on his inside leg, and then what hand would I have to beat? I'd have to beat this outside hand, because he's going to try to recover here. He's going to try to recover with that outside hand because he's trying to jam us off the line with two. I know that if I could just swat with my left one, or I could swat with my right one, rip underneath with the left. I could just rip underneath with the left. I could swat, then shoot over the top and chop down, make sure that I'm protecting my rib cage, but I know that I just got to beat his left hand. That's what you guys got to focus on. If you guys understand which hand do you got to beat to be able to get off a press, to be able to get some space, even if he recovers, let's say we were to hit him with this, let's say we hit him with this 1-2 and we're able to swat this hand off, but he doesn't bite so much and he's able to recover with the left hand. He's able to turn his hips and run and gets his left hand on you. That's fine. We're going hip to hip. We got off the route. We kept the timing with the quarterback. Now it's time to work my move at the top of the route where maybe I give a little lean into him. Maybe I work to restack and I fight those hands and I give him a rocker step, or I just break this thing off. All about being able to have a plan, being able to execute that plan, and being able to react. When things don't go your way or things might not go completely to the plan, how do you react off of that? Let's watch this thing again full speed one more time. I hope this makes sense to you guys. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments too as well. Great job getting hands off, breaking this thing up, and you see he's not even in the screen, that DB, because of how well he's able to get those hands off. So now we're going to be talking about this like diamond release here from Davis. So when he comes off the line here and he attacks on this 45, anytime you're able to get a DB to open up his hips and run with you, and you got to break back the other way. Very important part about hand technique is points of control, right? So the 3 points of control and there's probably 4, I would say. I see people teach this too as well, and I actually like this method too. I like back of the shoulder, back of the elbow, or back of the forearm. I don't like swatting wrists. I don't like swatting hands. I don't like swatting middle of the arm because it's really easy to put your hand back. And another thing, like maybe you're working, like I got to bring this up. Like let's say you got to run a 5-yard hitch route and this guy's running stride for stride with you. Maybe throwing him by at his hip. You know what I mean? Like not swatting by at the shoulder, throwing by at the hip. But again, focused off the line today. I just wanted to make sure I've touched on that. So when we come off the line of scrimmage and I come off 3 steps to here, you see how Davis, when he throws by, where's he swatting by? He's got that elbow. Point of control, right? Elbow, forearm, back of the shoulder. If he's a little bit further into you and he's really leaning into you hard, you want to throw the back of that shoulder by, and so we go. The reason why I call it a point of control is that's what's going to force him to move. So he's here, he swats him by. And when you can be violent with your swat, that's what's going to get this DB to move his hips off this platform and to open up his gate, right? Now, the thing that I want to stress the most off of hand technique is when you guys are able to swat and you're aggressive with your hands, you're able to get this DB to turn his hips. What do you think he's going to do? This is wrong because he kind of opened up right here, and that you see how slow he is in that situation. Imagine if he were to speed turn out of there, right? And I wouldn't say it's wrong, right? I'm not a DB guy. I'm not a DB coach, so I'm not going to sit here and try to preach to DBs. But if he would have sped turn out of there or speed turn out of there, he would have had a better shot to make a play on this slant, right? But how's he supposed to know he's going to run a slant? You know what I mean? There's a lot of different variables that play into this thing. But if he were to speed turn out of there, he'd be in a good situation to make this play, especially if we were supposed to keep this slant on the skinnier side, right? So we got to make sure that as a receiver, when I swat this guy off and I break off this thing, I accelerate. I make sure I'm pumping my arms. I make sure I'm driving my legs out of there, and I run on that 45 and really focus on widening the distance with this DB, because that's what's going to get. See, Davis does a great job of it, pumping those arms, running out of there so I can make this catch over the middle. That's a great job using that hand technique. So again, this is like a diamond release where we go here. Anytime we're trying to swat the DB by, want to be violent with my hands. The Devontae Adams situation that we just looked at, a little bit different than this one. Make sure that we're violent. Make sure I'm swatting him by. Aggressive, attack those point of control. Let's watch this thing again full speed. So you see how he comes off here, swats those hands by. Make sure we accelerate off of the swat, fellas. So now we're going to be looking at this right here from Justin Jefferson. Not so much hand technique right off the line, which is fine. But we're going to be talking about this little hesitation release right here, right? So when you got to run a fade and you work this little hesitation slide and then go, right? That slide. And we're going to talk about hand technique throughout the route as well, because I believe that that is an important factor into hand technique, and I think that not a lot of people stress it, not as many people stress it. So when we slide here, and we slide into this open range, we're forcing that DB to make a decision. He's either got to come at me with 2 hands or come at me with hands, be physical, or he's got to shuffle with me and run, right? So what does DB do? He stays being patient, and he has to turn and run with him. And Jefferson does a great job of selling vertical. Now, he knows that he's probably going to be trying to get hands on him right here, so we got to constantly be fighting those hands throughout the route, right? I got to constantly be swatting those hands. But now, before we get into that, when we work this slide, what if he were to come at me? And when this DB lunges at you, right, let's talk about this. When you're in a good range like Jefferson is right now, right, he's at this almost like, it doesn't have to be this particular, but like he's almost at a 45-degree angle off the line. This DB can't touch him from his base right now. He can't just stick his hand out and touch him. He has to address him. And so when this DB leans forward and lunges forward, he's off balance. He lost his leg. So all I got to make sure that I do, what do you want to do? You want to take an outside release on this? I got to be his outside arm. If he's trying to take away that outside, I got to be his inside arm. But if he's lunging at me and we make him make a decision, that's what I mean by range. I'm going to be able to make him pay for it, swat his hands, and then go. But he stays patient. He watches those hips. He slides with them. Now I just go. Now, we got to pretend like this DB almost has crap underneath his fingernails, and I want to get his hands off of me at all times. So I'm continuously swatting his hands, chop his hands, swat those hands off. So when that DB is here and it's time to make this play, we're in a better case scenario where he doesn't have hands all over me. He's not able to get his hands in my face and be able to make this play, and I go up strong and make this catch over the top. This is a great route by Jefferson working that hand technique. Even if he just puts his hand right back there, we're still fighting that hand, still fighting that hand. Constantly be working those hands to get that DB off you, because one play, you might get those hands off and then you might dust him. And then we get a ton of separation. So let's watch it again full speed. Great job manipulating him with that release. That's a good thing that you guys can work on, is that slide, that hesitation and go release, or hesitate and swap those hands to get some separation on that route. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys want to get better at your press releases, 20 different releases with specific drills and specific game scenario situations where you can use those releases. It's not about knowing what to do. It's about knowing when to do. Check out that very first link in the description. If you guys have any comments at all, please leave those below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'll see you guys next time.